welcome all you triathletes, swimmers, riders, and runners, newbies and 10-timers, 8-hour finishers, or 16-hour survivors. We're age grouper gurus, doing the homework, gathering the insights, answering your questions to make you faster, fitter, and fresher in triathlon training, and especially on race day. I'm your host, Steve Harper, with MultiSport Mojo and Tri Gear Guru. That's Tri Gear Guru. And alongside me is my good friend, Ironman certified coach, Kirk Taylor. Kirk, how are you?
Awesome, thanks.
Good. We're both age groupers, Ironman, triathlon, marathon vets, and everything else multi-sport in between. Here to get you from start to finish. Hey, remember to like us on Facebook at MultiSport Mojo, all one word, where you can weigh in and ask questions, and we'll answer them in an upcoming podcast. You can follow us on Twitter at #MultiSportMojo, or go to TriGearGuru, that's TriGearGuru.com, for more content, insights, and great prices on everything triathlon. We'd also like to thank our sponsors, Try Hard Triathlon Coaching, specializing in getting you across the finish line in your first triathlon and beyond. Contact Try Hard on their Facebook page at Try Hard Coaching. We'd also like to thank AZRadio.live, your home for independent music artists. Discover them here and promote the betterment of your community. Again, we're broadcasting live from the palatial studios of Big Mike's Recording Studio, headquartered in Scottsdale, Arizona. Need to record an album, broadcast a radio show, polish up your blogs, Facebook feed, or even record a podcast? Contact Big Mike's Recording Studio at AZRadio.live and get all the polish of a professional recording studio at a price that fits your startup budget. Kirk, how's it going?
Pretty good. How you doing?
Good. It's not raining this week, so what did you get in today?
It would have been an amazing day for a bike ride here.
It would have been. I don't even think it's 70.
Once again, we did not ride the bike so far.
I know. I got a run in. I got a 6-miler in this morning.
Oh.
Yeah, and I dressed
Nice.
for Antarctic blasts, and it was beautiful.
Yeah, I went and ran with the dog today as well.
Yeah, jackpot.
Yeah. So we were out in the desert. I did a guided run. I did one of the Nike Plus. Yeah.
I thought you were going to say jackpot.
The Nike Run Club. So you use the Nike Plus trainer, right? The Nike Plus app,
Right.
which is super cool.
Yeah.
And they now have guided runs. They started putting guided runs on a while ago, but
Uh-huh.
they're all free.
Right.
They're all free, and now they've got them, divided into category like short run, long run. So I pulled up a 1-hour run, a 60-minute run that was guided by the coach. I can't remember his name.
Yeah.
That's embarrassing.
Right.
I can't remember. Chris something.
Uh-huh.
I don't know. Do you know who I'm talking about?
Chris the coach.
Yeah, something. And Eliud Kipchoge.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Pretty
he did
interesting.
more than say, great job, Kirk. He did more than that, which we get on.
He did not say my name,
No?
sadly. I kept waiting. They kept referring to me as you, the runner. I was like, okay, my name is Kirk.
Great job.
Really, I thought this was supposed to be a guided run. And you
So
guys,
how did you like it?
it was pretty cool.
Yeah.
And one of the cool
What did you
things
like about it?
So normally on these guided runs, I put my own playlist on,
Right.
and I attempted to put my own playlist on today,
Uh-huh.
and I press play, and
Right.
it fires up, and my playlist does not start up, but instead I'm hearing this African music.
Yeah, because I don't know if I've done the Nike Plus runs. I don't think they were guided runs, but I've done the Nike Plus runs where they have the music and then they talk
Yeah.
to you over the run and they tell you to speed it up and slow down.
Right.
And we're going to do a tempo run today.
Yeah.
Right? And it's
Yeah.
20 minutes and here we go.
Right. Yeah, that's what this is.
Yeah.
Only it was a whole bunch of African music in the background.
Really? Did it motivate you a little more than
Yeah, I thought it
Soundgarden
was
or-
kind of fun.
Yeah.
It made it a little more authentic.
Yeah.
Yeah, Eliud Kipchoge, way hard to understand. I'm not kidding. I don't even know if Chris, if that's his name, understood half of what he was saying.
Really?
Yeah, because he would just say, "That's right. That is right." What great words of wisdom.
Really?
Without really having any clue what Kipchoge had just
I
said.
was just nodding and
Yeah. But there were actually a few good. The whole run was like an extended motivational poster. There were a whole lot of quotes that you could just slap up on a poster,
Right.
or maybe he's just sitting there in the studio reading motivational posters. I don't know, but
did it work?
no, it was cool. It was pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
You
they
ran
talked
with
about,
Kipchoge.
Well, this dude, the coach, was in Italy
Right.
for Breaking 2. He was on
Was he the coach with Kipchoge out there?
Yeah, he was on the sideline, so you know
Really?
he was there every time they came
Yeah,
around for
yeah.
another lap.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was on pace. Well, I know you saw it, but
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
he was on pace like through mile 20.
Yeah, it was just the very end where he kind of tailed off. And if you haven't seen Breaking 2, you need to watch it. The coolest thing for me visually is the car that sits out in front of the three runners and displays the line, that virtual line of the sub 2 line, right? And as one, the first guy drops off and then the second guy drops off as they're making those loops. And then they get on the third loop and Kipchoge's dude is on it.
Yeah.
And he doesn't look gassed, he looks good, right? But it isn't until his last couple of miles where little by little he just starts to fade and fade and fade. And still even then.
I was hoping that they would go into the details. He missed it by 25 seconds, spoiler alert. And I thought, well, I would love to hear how that went
behind the
down.
scenes. Yeah,
How
go
did
back
that
and
all
curve.
go down?
Right.
As they see it just slip
Oh.
away by seconds
Oh.
at the end.
It felt like it might as well have been an hour.
Yeah.
With all of the effort that went into designing a new shoe, the clothes, going to the track, the time of year, the temperature, the vehicle guide, the Pacers. When the Pacers would come up, the poor Pacers, he was running the Pacers racket. Pacers were falling off, boom, boom. Pacers were falling off. 25 seconds, but he came back. He broke the world record in Berlin, I think, in his next race.
Yeah.
Dude is pretty inspiring. Well,
Yeah.
yeah, right. Well, so good. So you had a good run.
Yeah, it was really cool.
Yeah.
I definitely recommend it. The
Cool.
Nike guided runs.
Yeah.
Yeah, super cool.
With right now when we have a guided run, it's a couple of buddies and your dog Jackpot.
Well, yeah, so another interesting thing that Kipchoge said, because the guy was asking him, hey, do you ever find it difficult to get out of bed in the morning? He said, yeah, sometimes the bed is really warm. But he said one of the things that gets him going on the runs is being able to get out there and joke around with his running buddies.
Yeah.
For him, that's what it's, that's a huge part of his training experience.
One of the things I like about Breaking 2, before we jump into the other stuff, one of the things I liked about Breaking 2 is that they show training runs in his home, and there are 20 guys that go out with these guys. 20 guys that go out, and and they take. We get done with our shoes, and I don't just toss them in the bin, but I take care. These guys wash their shoes. They're running on dusty roads, right? And these 20 guys will go off at a pace. A bus goes alongside them with their coach. A bus, and he's yelling out. One of these pulled down. They pull down the window, and he's yelling out, yeah, And I don't know what he was telling them, but they were motoring. Yeah, it's pretty.
You can't understand him in African or in English.
Well, the dude's the man. The dude is the man. Hey, listen, today our topic is first time. The first time you're doing a triathlon, and how do you train? So the training around your first triathlon. Let me ask you, Kurt. We heard last week in last week's podcast about your first triathlon down in Rocky Point.
Right.
We're going to talk about how you come up with a training plan. How do you decide how to train? How much time do you need to train? All of that, which for a first-time triathlon or for a first-time triathlete is pretty heady. If you're coming out of a marathon or cross country, or if you're a swimmer or a biker, trying to figure out how to train for all three in whatever distance triathlon race you've got coming is a bit of a heady proposition. So what did you do?
Well, for the listeners, it really kind of is all about the distance that you're going to be racing, right? And most first-timers are going to start with something like an Olympic distance or less.
Something small. You're not going into a full Ironman right out of the gate.
Most people don't. And most people don't do a half Ironman as their first race. It's fine if you do. That's certainly not a problem. There's nothing wrong with that. More power to you. But so for me, it was simply a matter of saying, all right, what are the distances I have to cover? I've got to do a 1,500 meter swim. So for me, that was the initial goal in the pool. I went to the YMCA. I'd swim. I remember doing one of the first days in the pool. I was trying to swim 800, 1,000, and it was tough. You know, I had real baggy swim trunks, had no swim cap, so I just had these real baggy trunks and goggles, and it was all I could do to drown myself for 1,000 meters. And I remember finally getting to the point where I could swim a 1,500, 1,600. I would do that, and then I'd get off or get out of the pool, and then I'd go in and sit on the spin bike for an hour.
You jumped straight into a brick.
Yeah, that was most of the time whenever I was doing a swim work, because, you know, 1,000 meters, even for a relatively slow swimmer, it doesn't take that long. You know, maybe you're in the pool for 20 minutes, 30 minutes tops, and for me, it just wasn't worth it to go to the Y for 20 minutes.
Right.
So I figure, all right, well, I'll get out of the pool and I got to ride the bike next, so let's practice doing that. So I'd practice, you know, I'd hop on the stationary bike for 30 minutes, an hour,
right,
or whatever I had time for. So
right,
that was really kind of, so that was the swim training, and that was, you know, I'd go to the pool a couple times a week. Bike training was, all right, I got to ride 25 miles, so most of that was spent doing loops in the streets around my house, you know, just to make sure that I could ride 25 miles. I didn't have any worries about the run. I had started running the year before and had done a half marathon early that year, which was, you know, sort of my first
big confidence
race back, right? So I knew I could do 6 miles,
sure,
10K.
Right.
You know, I did practice a few times, not too many, doing a ride and then a run.
Mm-hmm.
Highly, highly recommend that. You absolutely must do that. Well, because it's one thing to go out and run, and as triathletes know, it's a totally different thing to go out and run after you've been on the bike for a while.
Right.
You know, your legs are just, it takes you a while to find your legs, to find your running legs.
Right.
Anyway, so that was pretty much it. That was my training plan. I spent, let me think about this, I don't know, 3 months maybe, 2-3 months getting ready.
Mm-hmm.
I did have in the interest of full disclosure, I did have a personal trainer at that time that I was working with and doing mostly strength training, and I'd see him 3 times a week. So that was good. That was, you know, somebody that would walk me through a lot of resistance and strength training.
Right.
So you can do that at home with weights and just with your own body weight.
Right.
Do body weight
So
exercise.
essentially, you looked at your first race, looked at the distances, and wanted to make sure that you could complete each of those 3 distances. I think I did the same thing. I mean, my first was it wasn't organized, but it wasn't a right. We talked about last week. Mine was a race that you'd organized, and so it was a smaller sprint format. And how long was the swim?
400.
400, right?
Yeah, 400 yards.
I'd been swimming. I think I'd been swimming at lunch at work for you know, I think at that time 3-4 years. You know, I'd go swim for 45 minutes, so I knew I could do the swim. The bike, I had to borrow a bike, and I got to be honest. I thought, well, I've run marathons at that time. I'd run marathons for 10 years, and I thought, well, I'm in shape. How hard can the bike be? You know, I just got to stay on the bike. How long was the bike? 16 miles.
20. Yeah, you're right. 16.
Yeah, 16
miles.
Right?
Yeah.
So I thought I just got to stay on the bike for 16 miles. I'll get off the bike, and I'll kill it on the run.
Yeah.
Well, that was, you know, for me, the training that went into that, and I think I had 6 weeks, maybe 2 months. I knew that this was in my future, right? So I was pretty good at going to the pool, and I was pretty good at running in the mornings. I don't think I spent any time on the bike. I mean, I think I borrowed the bike with about a week to go and thought I just got to get used to it. The one thing I was worried about with the bike was clipping in.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want to demolish, you know, the bike, and I didn't want to embarrass myself. So I spent more time going about 10 feet and clipping in and trying to figure out how not to fall down clipping out.
How to get your feet
Yeah,
out
and
of the pedals.
Still it was a lot of my wife laughing while she was trying to hold me up. Okay, let me just go 10 feet and catch me.
So you borrowed the bike and the shoes then, I assume?
Yeah, they weren't my shoes.
Right.
And it wasn't my bike. And so the 16 miles, I thought, I think it was 4 loops. Was it 4 loops, 3 loops? I don't remember. Might have been 4 loops.
It's 4 loops.
4 loops. I think first I got out of the pool and I thought, okay, I'm feeling kind of good. And I got on And I got on the ride, and the first loop or two was fine. The second 2 loops, I was gassed. I couldn't believe, having thought, oh, I'm in shape, I'm fine, I don't need to do this. But a totally different muscle set. I'd never ridden, and so then getting off on the first, what was it, 5K?
2 miles.
Right, 2 miles.
Not
okay,
even a
so
5K.
The first 1.75 of that was really difficult for me. It was very humbling, coming off thinking, oh, I'm going to kill it on the run part, and to get my running legs. It took me it felt like it took half of the run.
Sure. Yeah.
And then by that time, I'm gassed.
Yeah, and you're pretty much done with that.
And I'd been running marathons for 10 years and
Right.
training to run marathons.
Yeah.
So I felt, I got the. So I don't think I.
So
looked
what's
at
the lesson
training.
here, kids?
Oh, geez.
What is the lesson here?
Right.
Tell us.
Well, I'll
Steve.
tell you what.
What's the
On
lesson?
my second race, which was I think it was a 70.3 was my second. I mean, I think we may have done another small one, maybe an informal one in between. But I think my second real race was a 70.3, and coming off of that experience, I buckled into training, and I started going online, and I started asking you, and what do I got to do to come in? Because now, I mean, especially when you get into a formal race and it's an Ironman branded race, 70.3 or a full, you're under the time limits, right? And so I was very aware of each of the discipline on race day, how much time I had to complete. And I knew on race day, I knew where the truck was behind me that was pulling people off. And so going into training, I know I don't think I overdid it, but I really was disciplined on my swims. I was really disciplined. I'd got a bike, I got shoes, I got a kit. I spent time on the bike. I'd gotten some advice from you, and then I kept doing marathon training. Really, how about you?
Well, so let's keep going with that, because really, your training you didn't really start training for a triathlon until you signed up for that half Ironman,
Right.
The 70.3.
Yeah.
Right.
In earnest, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think I was staying fit with running, but I really didn't jump into the swimming and the biking until I signed up on the race.
All right. So you knew. All right. You got to.
And I'll tell you, going into it, it was St. George. It was the St. George 70.3. So you had run the.
That was your first one?
Yeah.
Huh.
Baby.
So
you'd done the full,
Yeah.
and I had watched you. That I was watching online that day, and we'll have to talk about that some other time.
So that must have been the 2013 race then,
Yeah,
is that right?
because
In
the
2013?
2012
was the last
epic?
full.
Was that the epic?
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
epic
Yes.
St. George.
Legendary.
Oh, man, wow. We'll have to talk about. I mean, really. Weather conditions off the charts.
Right.
DNF
Right.
off the charts.
Yes.
If you finished the last full St. George, you're in rarefied air.
It was race changing. That was it. No
So
more
I'm
full
going-
Ironman for St. George.
Right.
We're done with that.
We're done with that. We're going to
Yeah.
kill people
Right.
if we keep doing fulls. So we dial it down to a 70.3. And when I talked to you about that, I said, it's just a 70.3. And you said, it's not just any 70.3.
Right.
This is a man eater.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a different course.
Right.
So let's talk about that just a little bit. So I was saying, hey, you got to be aware of the distance. Okay, you want to make sure you are training for the distance that you're hoping to run. But you also need to be course aware.
Right.
Right? Talk about that. Talk a little bit about St. George and what that means, for example, for that course,
right.
and how that may factor in other races.
Right, right. So the swim was in a reservoir. So I just did the same swim training that I was doing distance training, and I was doing some speed work on the bike. There are some legendary ascents and one legendary descent. And so I spent more time on the bike and really this is my first longer triathlon. So I spent a lot of time on distance, just trying to get my legs used to knowing I've got to be fit to get off on the run. And then I did a lot of hill work on the bike to get used to getting up out of the saddle and to climbing. And then I started doing bricks on regular, do a 40-mile ride and then do a 3-mile run off because the run then takes you right back up into the canyon. St. George race is up in the canyons, so they take you from the city up into the canyon and then back. And the ascents on the bike are are intense.
Serious climb.
And then you get off on the run and you jump right back up into the canyon, and it's a man-eater. And so there were a lot of brickwork that you had, which was really good advice. And then we're just trying to pound miles and pound hill work. And typically, I mean, I think hill work is overdone, like marathon hill work, unless there's a lot of hills. You don't need as much hill work typically as people train for. But for this race, it's basically, you know, it's a half marathon, so it was, I don't know, it felt like 5 miles almost uphill. And then it felt like almost as much on the backside than coming back into the city. So a lot of hill work in the training.
Talk to me about that first open water swim. The triathlon that we did, that shorter one, there, kind of just in the neighborhood pool,
right,
was not an open water swim.
No. Well,
talk about your apprehension.
Well, I was right in there with the rest of first time triathletes in an open water swim. For me, the anxiety was being in a wetsuit for the first time, being shoulder to shoulder with at least a couple hundred athletes that were in my queue, and then going to at least point to point on the race and getting, swam over. I wasn't terrified, but I was very aware of what I was doing. So I picked an outside line. I knew I was going to make me a couple of minutes slower, but I didn't want to die in the water. So getting the wetsuit on, I know I spent time in the wetsuit in my own pool. I know I spent time on a couple of training swims in the wetsuit, even though it was a little warmer, right, than it was going to be on race day. And then I spent time getting out of the wetsuit, get out of the pool, get out of the wetsuit as fast as I could, simulating transition, which we'll talk about in the next podcast. But it's hard for me. It was difficult on thinking about the race. It was difficult to get past the swim, because for me there were so many race day unknowns that I just hadn't experienced before. I think once I got on the bike, I'd been around other people on the bike. I hadn't done those hills. It was the picture of me crossing the finish line of my first triathlon, which was St. George 70.3, is the only picture I've ever bought from a race. My tri top is unzipped down to my belly button because I had no idea. And I came across knowing that the time truck was right behind me. And that's when all your
sponsors withdrew their contracts.
Right. And I came across like I just landed on the moon. It was beyond adulation. A little embarrassing. But I was amped.
It was awesome.
Because I had done that swim in the wetsuit in the open water, and I'd done that ride on the hills, and I'd done that run, and all of the training that had come along with it, I'd done it.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, I am pretty sure that we were following you and wanted to make sure that you were going to make that cutoff. I remember sitting there watching. Yeah. That was exciting. It was a nail biter, let's put it that way.
Yeah, holy smokes. Well, I remember going up in some of those ascents and trying to figure out how anyone can go past me like they were. And I was barely standing. So I hadn't trained for any of that. I'd done a lot of distance training, and I had done some hill training, but I hadn't trained for anything like that. So race day, there were a bunch of race day firsts. I mean, that swim, I'm not sure you can really, other than being in a wetsuit and swimming in your pool, you can't, and then swimming and then getting at least a couple open water swims in.
Yeah.
Which I did 1 or 2, and now I do 5
or 6.
Well, that's
true. I guess we did do one. So,
that was more going out and making sure I
don't
could
know.
Feel good.
Yeah, I don't have the official statistics. I do not know what the statistics are, but I can tell you for a fact that the one thing that prevents, so if you're listening to this and you've thought, I always wanted to do a triathlon, I can tell you, I'm with a great deal of confidence that the one thing that keeps people from doing triathlon, and I'm talking about people who run or bike or both, is the swim.
Yeah.
People will say, I can't swim.
I can't swim. And I can't swim in open water.
Yeah, that's even worse.
In a wetsuit.
I'm
going to suffocate.
Terrifying. Well, so can you help? what do you say to the first timer then? What do you say to somebody who, well, is contemplating doing a triathlon, who is just scared to death about swimming with 2,000 people, or being out there in a lake and it's cold and a wetsuit and yucky, can you see? Right. What does the water taste like? Or if you're in the ocean,
I mean, there's so many firsts, so many firsts at an open water race day swim. So for me, having not had that experience as a first timer, it was getting in a wetsuit and going out to the lake and seeing what it was like. And it's cold. I mean, going into a spring race, so you're getting in the water, in February.
So you found a lake.
Yeah, we had a lake.
Yeah.
We and threw the wetsuit on, and got and then you're like, because it's cold and you're not used to the water going down the back of your wetsuit. You're not used to your fingers going numb, and then you pick a spot and you go swim and you try and simulate just feeling comfortable. So that I wanted to know that on race day, when I got in the water, with the other elements that I wouldn't be able to experience until race day, knowing that if I could pick a buoy, I could swim to it. I wasn't real good at sighting. I didn't really even understand why sighting. I could just look up every once in a while. Well, now, having done a lot more races, to stay at a good swim pace, I practice and I'm better at sighting and picking out goggles that help me to sight. But I wanted to be comfortable, along with doing the swim training in the pool, being in open water, picking a spot, being in my wetsuit, and feeling like I could swim. Because it does feel tighter. It doesn't feel natural. You are more buoyant. A tri-suit is designed to keep you in a proper swimming position. That felt really different. It all felt different.
Yeah.
And so I think we went out to the lake 2 times, and just got in the water. And then we'd swim. I mean, we'd swim for 5 minutes, and I'd think, holy smokes, what am I getting myself into?
Yeah. Well, I remember we're getting close to the end of the show here, so we're gonna have to wrap up. But just a couple of things. Number one, I remember those swims in the open water. I think I was there for at least one of them, if not both of them. And we had a buddy who had never been in open water, hadn't been in his wetsuit before either. And we get in and it's cold and he's extremely apprehensive and essentially starts to hyperventilate.
Yeah, which is normal, I've found now.
So the idea is just go in, try to settle your breathing. Just take it nice and easy. Just focus on relaxing. Just enter the water nice and easy. Go into the water. Let yourself float, kind of sit down, squat down, just to feel the water around you.
Yeah.
To just start to and get your breathing under control. You want to take it as easy as possible so that you're not hyperventilating and that you feel that you are comfortable. Because on race day, there are so many other factors going around. You're so nervous as it is anyway, just to do a race, that the ability to bring yourself to a place where you can just be calm and look around, enjoy the day, enjoy the moment, take it all in and kind of savor it, that will go a long way to helping you feel much more comfortable and having a good experience.
That's good advice. That's good advice.
And I also want to say the other thing I wanted to say is that a lot of what Steve has been talking about here, the getting the wetsuit on, taking the wetsuit off, you can see videos with really detailed explanations of all that are very comprehensive and super good, not only for first timers, but for people who have been doing this. You'll perhaps pick up a little tip or trick or two that will help you on the MultiSport Mojo YouTube.
Yeah.
Okay. There are a lot of great videos. There is some great content on the MultiSport Mojo YouTube. So make sure you check that out.
Cool. That's first timers.
Yeah.
That's training. So I'll tell you what's great about these podcasts are the nuances within multisport and the detail that we can go into. We're going to talk about transitions on the next podcast. So tune in for that. I think the other thing that first-time triathletes are trying to get used to is all about transition and going fast. So stay tuned. Stay tuned on all of that. Okay, Kirk. That's all we've got time for today. Kirk and I want to thank you for joining us. Remember to like us on Facebook at MultiSport Mojo. That's all one word. where you can weigh in and ask questions, and we'll answer them in an upcoming podcast. Follow us on Twitter at #MultiSport Mojo, and go to Tri Gear Guru, that's TRI Gear Guru, for more content and insights and great prices on everything triathlon. We want to thank our sponsors, Try Hard Triathlon Coaching. Contact Try Hard on their Facebook page at Try Hard Coaching, TRI. We want to thank AZRadio.live, your home for independent music artists. Discover them here and promote the betterment of your community. And a big thank you to Big Mike's Recording Studio. At first I thought there was Big Mike was going to roam around here, and then I got the cleverness of the name. If you didn't get it, you'll get it now. Big Mike's Recording Studio. Contact Big Mike's Recording Studio at AZRadio.live and get all the polish of a professional recording studio at a price that fits your startup budget. This is MultiSport Mojo and our podcast. Triathlon Age Group Gurus, doing all the homework, gathering all the insights, answering all your questions to make us all faster, fitter, and fresher in triathlon training. And on race day, we'll help get you from start to finish. Our topic next time, how to get you through transitions quickly and anxiety-free. Thank you, and we'll talk to you later. Thanks, buddy.
Yeehaw!